can money buy happiness? They have done some pretty solid studies on.
I would lean more towards yes, by the way.
I would too, and the reason I say it is because they've done some studies on, is there like a magic number for happiness? And and honestly, the studies show that about the $80,000 income mark is where most people's financial stresses go away. If they're conservative with their money, if they're not living within their means, you can live a pretty happy life at that range. Anything above that is kind of gravy. And it goes back to that argument too of, like, you and I don't do what we do for money.
No. Yeah.
We do it because it's just what
it's
we
a byproduct,
do. Right? Yeah.
No, yeah. I mean, at this point,
Yeah.
I've thought this thought very briefly. It's a fleeting thought, but so real quick, without boring everybody, let's do basic math here. Let's just assume that you can invest in the stock market and it's going to pay you on average, let's just use the number 10% a year. Mm-hmm. Not every year, but let's just say it averages that over a lifetime. Well, in theory and in practice, there are people. You could just simply, let's say that you can live off of, if you don't mind me, Eric, what number could you live off of a year?
Oh, I mean, I've done this math. My number is really specifically low.
What is it?
It's right around 18,000.
Okay, so you need 180 grand. Mm-hmm. Okay, you put 180 grand in the stock market. So your goal, let's say you're 18 years old. It's real simple. Mm-hmm. Figure out what you can live off of. Work every second of every day that you can, and save that number. Right. Invest that number. And if you just did something as simple as the stock market, buy a $180,000 rental property. Buy two rental properties, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not even going to get to, they put off cash flow. They grow. They appreciate in property value. You get depreciation. You save on taxes. You get increased rents over time. We're not even going to go into all that. Sure. Just water it way, 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 way down. All you need to do is make 180 grand, put it up, and live off the proceeds. You can retire the rest of your life, right?
Right.
And the good news is that because of inflation, as the cost of living goes up, your return also will go up. If it's in real estate, if it's in something that's a hedge. So literally, it's simple. And I know you've made 180 grand in your lifetime. Sure. The difference is not what you make, it's what you've spent, right? Mm-hmm. So wherever you're at in your life, whether you need $1 million a year, or 100 grand a year, or 20 grand a year, it's a simple thing, right? The problem is that people don't think that way.
Well, it comes down to financial literacy. It comes down to discipline. These are all things that a lot of people don't have. And I've never...
Well, you probably didn't have that conversation at...
I have never. I've never had that conversation. I've only recently had those conversations with you guys.
Yeah.
And that's why, we had Jordan Fisher, who is the episode just before this one.
Yeah.
Where it's you, Jordan, and Tom. And that one goes specifically more into business and finances, right?
Yeah.
And... there are a lot of people who just don't have the mindset that you have, and I have been one of those people. Yeah. And learning these things is, I'm 45 years old, I think, and I'm just now having these conversations.
It's okay. Colonel Sanders didn't start till he was 60.
Yeah.
There are several. I can tell you.
And 60 then was really old.
Yeah, and exactly. And I'll tell you, I'm going to mess this up, but.
He looked like Eric when he was 25.
Exactly.
I'm coming in here with a Colonel outfit next week.
I love it. Bring some KFC, please. I'll bucket. But they do the millionaire studies all the time. But Dave Ramsey, right? I think their average millionaire, right? Like if you look at the age, the stuff, and when they started, that most of them didn't even really start working on their financial literacy. Like their average age point is what would be considered middle-aged.
Right.
Yeah, 40s, yeah.
Because that's when you really most people start to wake up and pay attention.
Start thinking about your mortality in the 40s.
Yeah.
I mean, it gives you some hope for future generations because these conversations are happening more and more often.
Yeah.
You're starting to see like public figures actually talk about wealth and accumulating wealth. These conversations weren't happening before, and that's one of the great benefits of social media. I'm not a huge fan, but one of the great benefits is that people like you guys get to talk directly to people who need to hear that.
So the whole point of that whole story, right?
Yeah.
About the multiple of 10, right? And we can say, the average return in the stock market's 8%. Whatever, that's fine. Then use that same multiple, right? Sure. Now we need 12 times approximately the income, right? But the whole point of that whole story that I didn't even get to, my apologies, is that what you're going to figure out is very quickly you're going to lack purpose. And very quickly, you will, if you don't find something to do, you will become depressed.
Yes.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
You need something to fulfill you. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you need a job, just over broke. It just needs, you need something to fulfill. You need a dream, a passion. You need something, children, family, life, right? You need some level of purpose, regardless of the level of money you have. Like Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger doesn't get spoken about. Warren Buffett gets brought up quite a bit, but I mean, I think he's 91.
Okay.
He's still clocking 40 hours a week, right? 40 hours a week. I don't care what anybody says out there. That's part-time, right? That's part-time. If you work 40 hours a week and you tell me how tired you are, I'm going to laugh a little bit on the inside because you're lazy.
Unless you're doing something that's a mindless job. But,
Well,
then
but
you
what
should
are
be
you
spending
doing
your
for
extra
the next-
time.
yeah, what do you do the next 40
finding out
hours?
what you're good at.
Yeah, the next 40 hours. If 40 hours is for somebody else, what are you doing the 40 hours for yourself?
Although today, a lot of people are working 80 hours a week trying to just make it, and
Yeah.
that's one of the problems with.
Man, I'd love to
With
meet
the
some of those
current-
people. I see all the ones working 35, 40 hours a week, doing everything they can but make it.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's a rarity.
Well, I think also
We can't get people to come to jobs.
Yeah, I think
It's
it's
like
it
raise
goes-
the rate to 15, everybody will come higher. No, they won't.
No, I think you. So like my idea is to change society where it's based on participation, productivity, and prosperity. So you create a situation where people are incentivized to do more.
I would love that. I think eventually you'll be to a point where people can chase their passion. So if everybody,
That's yeah.
so
exactly.
imagine. Let me flip this on its head. If that math is right, let's just say that the average 18-year-old can earn, and I know 18-year-olds that can earn $100,000 a year.
Sure.
It's physical labor.
Yeah.
But you can go on $100,000 a year at 18. But let's just say the average 18-year-old can earn $30,000 a year, and they're not going to like it. They're going to hate it.
Sure.
Right, and they figure out they can live off $30,000 a year. Well, then we just do the math and go, okay, well, how long does it take them to save $300,000? Right, and you've got scale, you got all these things, but literally, maybe people can just work for a very short period of time to produce, and then they can live off the proceeds and pursue their passion. I have no idea.
Well, I think
I don't know what the right answer is, but
I
mean, I
believe
think
I think we could change our monetary system today, and it could be just with fiat currency or a combination of fiat and cryptocurrencies. And an 18-year-old could work 20 hours a week and make $104,000 a year.
I think what you're saying is probably possible. It's not probable. Not right now.
I think exactly. We could do it today, 100% sure we could do it, but
Yeah.
probability of it happening,
Yeah.
it breaks down a lot of power constructs.
Yeah, which needs to happen, and that will over
Yeah.
time.
You said something interesting. You said you brought up the word purpose, and I
Right.
think that really is the key to a lot of. For me, what I've found is I was thinking about this last night. I spent 7 years in this really fucked up headspace, man. I suicidal, very depressed, and what I realized was it was because I created a distance between me and my kids.
Oh yeah.
My kids got a little bit older, and I wanted to go be a fucking comedian and live in a goddamn van, you know what I mean? And all of that stuff was important for me. I needed to have that experience and learn those lessons. But then what I realized is when I started going back and repairing my relationship with my kids, my mental state improved. I needed to have that purpose. My purpose needs to be
It needs
my
to
relationship
include
with
them.
my family. It needs
Yeah.
to include them. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Because when it isn't, I had no direction, and I didn't give a fuck what happened to me.
It's an anchor.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Stability. Yeah,
that's
I
the
agree.
most important. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. And so this is where we come into. So everybody's like, well, why do you do what you do? Like I still, there are weeks where I'm working 80 hours, but by and large, it's 100 hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm not mistaken, there's 160 hours in the week. What is it?
Something like that. Yeah,
Let's figure it out real quick. You got that?
because of how much
You mentioned
What's 24 times 7?
24 times 7 is 168.
168. Okay, so there's 168 hours in a week. I clock 100.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody's like, well, how do you do that? It's simple. That still leaves 68 hours, right?
Right.
Well, how many hours a night do you sleep?
Right.
I mean,
5, 6, 7, 8.
6 hours, you still have 126 hours.
Yeah. You had
Right.
mentioned something not that long ago.
And then how many hours a day do you want to spend with your family? 2?
Yeah.
That's 14 hours a week.
You
Right?
had
I mean, like, I
mentioned-
got all kinds of time.
You had mentioned kind of. And I hope you don't
Weekends,
mind
I
me
spend
talk-
more time with my family.
Yeah.
I hope you don't mind me mentioning this, but you had mentioned you're prioritizing the amount of time you spend with your family coming up. And
Oh, yeah.
That's
yeah,
the thing you've been
100%. Yeah. I mean, and I think you need to do that. And I'm making different decisions. So, like, we live in Mooresville. So one of the commitments I made is not to not do projects, it's to do projects locally, right? So instead of, we had an opportunity come up here recently out of state, 7 hours drive and hour and a half flight, not counting the time to go through the airport and everything. So let's call it round trip 3 to 4 hours by flight and round trip 14 hours by car. And I had this opportunity that's an awesome opportunity. I mean, I've looked at the metrics. It makes all the sense in the world. Probably about a 34% return annually on my investment. Huge, great opportunity. We passed. The reason I passed is because it doesn't fit inside of the parameters that I've set, the commitment I've made to spend more time in Mooresville, right? So the investments I'm looking at, and you think, oh, well, you can create cookie cutter systems and you can run them anywhere in the world. Yes, you can, but not with every business. And this specific type of business requires more oversight, more management, and has more heavier likelihood that you're going to have problems pop up. So for me, it didn't fit our long-term vision, and so it didn't fit that I want to spend more time with my family. So I don't want to do nothing. I just want to have purposeful work, meaningful work in these areas that I want to live with my family.